Hi everyone, I'm Evangeline right here at etrailer. Today we're going to be reviewing the Thule ReVert 4-bike vertical hanging rack. This is going to be an intriguing rack where instead of other platform racks which go further out past your vehicle, the direction this one goes is up. And that does save a little bit of space behind your car, but more importantly, with the ReVert rack, it has some extra cool features in there, like a hydraulic strut that allows you to very easily tilt the bike rack away. And this makes it a lot easier to load and unload all of your different bikes. So we're going to talk about those different features, explain why this might be a good fit, why this might not be a good fit, and I'll also show you how to get your bikes loaded up. Showing off how I load the bike has actually been my favorite thing to show off today because it's pretty easy. So I have a light road bike here, and all I need to do is bring it up where rear wheel on the ground, front wheel up top, because then I can just roll that wheel up and into the tray, and just like that, the bike is sitting up and ready for me to strap things down. This is going to be the ReVert 4, which means you can carry up to 4 bikes. You can also upgrade to the ReVert 6 if you do want to carry up to 6 bikes. I do recommend loading it from left towards the right though, and as you can see, we have a mix of mountain bikes as well as a road bike on the far right. You secure your bike with rubber straps for the front wheel, securing it to the cradle, and then a rubber strap in the second one. And along with electric bikes, this will fit most of your standard mountain bikes and some road bikes. Now what it won't fit though are bikes that do have fenders just because of where the tires sit. This will also fit your fat tire bikes with tires wider than 3 inches, as well as your small kids bikes. Now for those, you do need separate fat bike adapters or children's bike adapter, which allows you to carry 20 up to 24 inch wide tires. This is a very easy part to pick up here at etrailer and attach to those loops for those situations. If you've seen my review video for the 6-bike version of this bike rack, you've probably heard how much I love that version, especially since there's so few actual good options for carrying up to 6 bikes with your vehicle. Now, in the 4-bike platform or hanging rack bike rack category though, there's a lot of competition. Pretty much every brand has a 4-bike bike rack. Does this still hold up against those other options? It does depend on your priorities. So a quick summary of our video so far is we've seen how easy this is to tilt back, how easy it is to load bikes up. Awesome when you do have to carry up to 4 bikes. On the other side though, what it doesn't do as well as some of the other contenders, especially platform racks, is gonna be that movement behind your vehicle. So to show you what I mean, we're gonna take it out on a test course. And real quick before you hit the road, always make sure that all of your straps are secured, that your hitch is tightened down with that knob, and I always recommend locking that down. And also make sure that your safety pin is in your base and secured in that tab. If you've double checked all 3 things, let's go for a ride. All right, driving around our test course, we have our speed bumps. And you're gonna see some sway of the bike rack. Now this is probably the most sway we're going to see, especially when we go up and down on those speed bumps, because you'll see the bike rack go up and down as well. The whole rack is moving up and down, but the bikes are very sturdy on there. When we do some quick turns, you'll see how the bikes sway with the car. Doing our U-turn here. Everything looks really good. I'm pretty impressed with just how secure those straps and those cradles make it for all the bikes on the rack. Now going through the gravel area, we'll also see a good amount, but not as much movement as we did when we had it on the speed bumps. The thing with the gravel is that this rack is also rated for slight off-road use, but that only means like private roads, service roads, things like that. So for our drive today, I'm pretty impressed with the performance of this bike rack. Yes, there is more movement compared to some more sturdy platform racks, but it's pretty on par to the point that I'm pretty secure with my bikes on there, and I know they're not going to come off of the bike rack anytime soon. And as long as I properly secure the rack, that's going to be safe in the receiver as well. It has been really nice being able to work with this bike rack on different vehicles. We see it here today on a Kia Seltos where we have really low ground clearance, but this performs really well because it sits higher up and I'm not worried about hitting the ground. But on taller vehicles, it also works well because it assists with loading your bikes up and onto the rack. So it still works the same way where I don't lose out on any features. You can also use this on a motorhome, and there are specific specifications for what Thule defines as a motorhome. It's a distance from the tire to your hitch receiver, because there's going to be a lot more movement behind a motorhome. You can use this rack at a 60% weight capacity. So you don't get the full 220 pounds. You go down a little bit, so do be mindful of that with your heavier electric bikes. So now today, what I'm gonna do is I am gonna take these bikes off so that we can take a closer look at those different specs. Let's talk about clearances real quick, because you wanna make sure that this will fit your vehicle. So if you measure first for the closest point of the bike rack, that will be measured from the center of your hitch's hitch pin hole, and then you go out about 14 or 15 inches, and that's gonna be where the bike rack is going to be. So if you have a, let's say, large spare tire behind your Jeep, that's something to measure for. Next is gonna be your ground clearances. So I have this on a vehicle with pretty low ground clearance, but the good news is we have a bike rack that's angled upward by this base. So even if I'm going over, let's say, speed bumps or potholes, then this is gonna give me good chances of not bottoming out. Now, you also have to be very mindful of your hitch receiver, because this fits into a 2-inch hitch receiver, but you need to have a decent amount of weight capacity, because this bike rack is not light. Because of all of the steel used to create this bike rack, it's gonna weigh at 72 pounds without any bikes on there. So add 72 pounds, add the weight of all your bikes loaded up on there, you can get close to 300 pounds of tongue weight pushing down on your hitch. So double check your tongue weight capacity of your hitch receiver, and that will help you figure out if this is an appropriate bike rack for your car. And hopefully this is, because if you compare this bike rack with some other vertical hanging racks, is that the Thule ReVert does some things a little bit better. For example, the cradle sits 12 inches apart here on the ReVert 4. That's a good distance and gives much better clearance from bike to bike. This also has a rear cradle for your rear wheel. Some other racks don't have that, so this makes for, again, less interference from bike to bike. So if you're looking for something that just does the job well done and has just smaller features that you didn't think you needed until you got it, that's where the Thule ReVert sits. Speaking of additional things you didn't know you needed, there are some add-on accessories not included with this bike rack that are worth looking into. We talked about the wheel adapters for fat tire bikes or for kids bikes, but what I actually think is the best add-on accessory is going to be the repair holder. This installs into the bottom arm of your bike rack, and then you can bring this out so that it can hold on to your bike. That way, if you needed to make any quick repairs while you're at the trailhead, your bike rack can do that for you. So check that one out here at eTrailer if that's something you're interested in. Another add-on accessory not included is going to be a cable lock. It's nice to have a cable lock that you could potentially get key to like to your bike rack, but if you are not quite ready to get that add-on, using your own cable lock to secure your bikes works perfectly fine as well. Speaking of locks, if you didn't know, you can lock your bike rack into your hitch after you install it. So we're going to take a look at how to install it real quick. So this is kind of how you're just going to have your bike rack. I recommend having a second person since, again, this is 70 pounds and very unwieldy. But you can see how this fits into the hitch receiver. Now, once you get close in, you can then set your hitch pin alignment tool, and that stinger is just going to catch your hitch pin hole when it makes contact. I'm going to make sure that's closed, which it is. The bike rack is going to be a bit wobbly right now, so we're going to go and tighten it down. Here we have our lever, and this makes for a tool-free system. So we pop the lever out, and then we then go and try to tighten it down. Now you have two options here. You can flip the lever over, which by the way takes a little bit of muscle, but it is doable. And then that allows you to fully rotate. If you need a little bit more leverage on the lever, what you can do is pull the lever out so it doesn't really do anything, and then when it pushes back in, it then continues to tighten. So both are valid options for making sure your bike rack is fully secure within your hitch. Once you have this fully tightened down, we're going to push that lever right back in and then turn the key to lock it in place. If you have other Thule accessories, you can utilize Thule's one key system, where you purchase a bunch of different lock cores and then you switch out the lock cores so they all match. That is something you may be interested in, especially if you get the separate cable lock. I personally really like this bike rack, and I think it fits really well behind my vehicle as long as I have the right hitch to use it, because it can get pretty heavy. So on that note, if I was to carry around 4 bikes, I'd start looking at the different options. And the main thing is, what are your priorities? Because if you have heavy electric bikes of up to 55 pounds, and maybe you find that the up and down movement on the Thule ReVert is just a little too much for you, then an alternative would be the bent-in shifts and grins. Same weight capacity for all 4 bikes, has a cool 2+2 feature where you can use it in the 2-bike configuration or the 4-bike configuration. The bent-in shifts and grins is just a very, very heavy bike rack. So while it is easier to store in the taken apart configuration, it does take a little bit more work to get it up all installed into your hitch. The complete opposite option would then be the Highwood Racks Destination 4. I really like that bike rack, and I've recommended it to so many families because that bike rack is so versatile, carries kids' bikes and adult bikes very well. The one downside to that compared to the Thule ReVert, the Destination 4 has a 35-pound weight capacity, not as much as the 55-pound on the Thule ReVert. Plus, if you want to tilt your bike rack away, that's not something a Destination 4 does. The Thule ReVert, though, has a really cool lever here and makes it easy to tilt the bikes back up, which is something that most other bike racks don't have. In fact, I'm not even sure off the top of my head what other bikes have as good of a lift assist function as the Thule ReVert. So in most cases, I would actually be recommending the Thule ReVert as a great 4-bike rack. But before we go, one funny little thing that a lot of people don't realize until they have to tilt their bike rack away without any bikes on is because that lift assist is strong enough to lift your bikes up fully loaded, when it's not fully loaded, you have to then exert a good amount of power to bring this down into position. So get ready for that. Something I do is definitely use this step as leverage to get it up there. But I think it's worth it with how powerful that strut is. So hopefully this video just showed how this bike rack works, how you can get bikes loaded up there, and how it might fit into your life and your journeys. If you have any questions, check out our product pages. We put tons of specs and descriptions in there to help you out, or give us a call and send us a message, and we'll help you find the right fit for you. But today, this was a look at the Thule ReVert 4 vertical hanging bike rack. My name is Evangeline, and I hope you enjoyed this journey.